There's one type of property on the market right now that for 90% of buyers is a terrible choice. I've seen it happen time and time again. Buyers fall in love with the photos and live to regret it later. With so many Airbnbs flooding the market, they can seem like a great deal. But most buyers don't realize the hidden problems these homes can have. These properties might look amazing online, but in reality, they're often full of shortcuts and hidden issues that might not be obvious at first glance. Let me show you what to watch out for so you don't end up regretting your purchase. We're seeing more and more Airbnb properties come onto the market in recent months, recent years really, since local municipalities have started regulating the short-term rental market. What seemed like a great opportunity a few years ago when it was the Wild West of short-term rentals has become a little more difficult since these regulations have come into effect. Many of these Airbnb properties were purchased and renovated very quickly and cheaply to appeal to a short-term renter. What appeals to a short-term rental is not what's going to appeal to a full-time home or cottage owner. A lot of times these were quickly upgraded and updated so that they look good cosmetically, but the bones and the structure itself weren't taken into consideration when these updates were made. You'll notice lower grade, lower quality flooring, lower quality cabinetry, fixtures, that type of thing were done very quickly and inexpensively because the purpose of these properties was to generate income, not to be something that would stand the test of time. Another telltale sign is sloppy finishing. So quick paint jobs that might not look as finished and as detailed as if you were doing it for your home, or trim that just does not look quite finished. These types of things we see over and over again in these types of short-term rentals. They look great in photos because you're not looking too closely, but once you get in and you walk around and you get a sense of the feeling in the property, they really start to become very apparent very quickly. And like I said, a lot of times the structural components weren't taken, or the more expensive elements aren't taken into account with these types of properties. They would have stuck to cosmetic things, cosmetic updates, so that they look good in the photos and that they would appeal to a broad range of renters. But those important pieces may have been overlooked. Things like the HVAC system or the well and septic systems. These can be very expensive, and you could end up spending a lot of money to maintain and update and service these items without it showing anywhere. Not to mention that a cottage that is on a septic system there's a delicate balance. I don't want to get too deep into the weeds with septic systems, but they are their own ecosystem, and there is a way to maintain a septic system that is healthy for the system and will prolong the life of it as well. So there are things you can flush, there are things you can't flush, there are things you should and shouldn't do with a septic system. And if this is your primary residence or your cottage or your family cottage, you're going to be very particular about what you put down the toilet or down the sink, because it's going to affect that system that you care very much about because you want it to work when you need it to work. And a short-term renter or a group of kids that are up for a weekend renting a cottage aren't really going to care about what goes down that system, and could be putting things into that septic system that aren't really doing it any favors. So renters just aren't mindful about what they're flushing. They don't care. They're just there for the weekend or the week. So long-term ramifications of that are going to fall on the new owner of the property, and that could get expensive. Making sure that you take the time to really research and inspect these systems is going to go a long way to easing your mind down the road, knowing that you didn't buy something that was going to need work, or if it does need work, you know what you're in for. down the road. So how do you spot a short-term rental beyond the cheap trim work or quickly painted property? Well, I mean, you don't necessarily know until you get into the property that you're looking at a short-term rental sale, unless you look really closely. A lot of times you'll see a Wi-Fi password prominently displayed somewhere, or the decor is pretty nondescript, pretty standard. There's nothing wow or special about it because you're trying to appeal to a broad audience. Oftentimes there will be one door that's padlocked because the owner's possessions will be tucked away and locked away during rental time to be taken out when they're at the property. And you'll get that feel that the property is set up for a quick turnover, not for a family who wants to spend time and really be comfortable in the property. So lots of beds, not a lot of personal items. It'll feel like you're kind of in a hotel. Okay, so you found this short-term rental property. You've found a property that you like. You've done your research. You realize it is a short-term rental, or it may have been a short-term rental. What's the next step? Well, you're going to want to make sure that you do your due diligence. So think inspections, and not just, you may want to go a little deeper than the standard home inspection, septic inspection. You're going to want to maybe, depending on what you find in those inspections, you may want to bring in someone who's got experience with structural issues, maybe an engineer or a master electrician or a plumber, depending on what you find, even a septic specific expert, because understanding what was done to the property and how it affects the current state of the property is going to be very important. It will determine the price you pay, the amount of repairs needed, and whether it's a property that you're going to want to move forward with at all. So that due diligence, whether it's during the conditional period or prior to putting in an offer, is going to be extremely important, and a good realtor will help you walk through that process. It's crucial that you go in with your eyes wide open so that you understand the costs and implications involved in pursuing the property. Now that you know the risks, maybe you're thinking about avoiding potential Airbnbs altogether. I get it, but there are still amazing options out there. Quality homes that don't come with all the Airbnb baggage. If you want to explore affordable opportunities in the Kawartha Lakes, check out my video, Why the Kawartha Lakes is the Hidden Gem of Affordable Properties. I'll show you where to find homes that are truly worth your time and effort.